could you talk a little bit about yours, Fang Yi, and tell us what you do for your presentational task?
Sure. For the entire semester, they actually learn about all different cities and the rivers in China and lakes in China. So by the end, my students are they are making a Chinese map by their own. Yeah, and they need to draw all those. They need to draw the map of China, and then to be able to talk about what each city they represent. Like Beijing is the capital city of China, or where Chengdu has, where China they protect panda over in this city. So that by the end of the task of the presentational, they are able to go up in front of the whole class and then in pairs, and then to present to, that's the map they make, and then they are able to briefly talk about the map to the rest of the classmates. So they are able to say, oh, this is Beijing, this is the capital city of China. Yeah, and over there you can find some small, some key sightseeing places, and then move on to next. They need to introduce 3 different cities on the map. Yeah. And then talk about where the river is, because that's all tied with their content in the classroom. They learn about rivers by the end of the school year. Yeah, so that's their presentational task. Yeah.
We did first the presentational and then the interpersonal, because we thought that even if the level of the students is intermediate, mid, interpersonal task is still the most difficult task to perform, probably because they have to negotiate meeting, and they have to understand each other, and they also need to, they have there is the element of surprise, so it's not planned, and they more or less know what they need to talk about, but they can't predict what the other person says. So we decided to do the presentational first, also in order to give them more material and to talk about and to deal with.
Students are in a craft market. There's so many products that could be bought and sold, so I limit it to items that can be found in a craft market. I bring everything that I have collected throughout the years to school. Students choose their items. One person becomes the customer, and their partner becomes the salesperson, and they write their dialogues together. Then they present it to the class. And this is really fun for them to be negotiating for the item and the final price. It is a rehearsed performance, but it gets them more ready then for the interpersonal practice. Students that are in the audience also have the task of jotting down what item is being sold and then the final bartering price, so that gives the rest of the class a purpose. Otherwise, often you end up with the issue of students presenting and then other students having no interest. It's not my turn, I don't care. Well, this way they get credit for listening and writing down the correct prices of what has been being sold from their classmates.
In our presentational task, once the students had information about Italian cinema, and in particular about Italian comedy and how that gets inspiration from everyday life, and they received feedback on this. Now we give them tools for the presentational task, and what we ask them is to prepare a video in groups. And before doing that, though, they still need some tools. So we give them 5 different movie trailers that they watch, and then they have kind of a grid that they have to complete, in which they have to put, for example, what is the theme of the movie that they will be, what is for example, the everyday or society aspect that it's been depicted in this trailer, and so on. So they will get ideas of how to make their own videos, in which they have to talk about a 21st century comedy, and then they have to give reasons for their choice.
One of the challenges of the presentational task is that if we follow all the guidelines that ACTFL has given us about a true presentational task, is that it has to be rehearsed, as you said, where the students in your market scene had to write out their dialogue and rehearse it and then present it. And finding time or finding ways for students to rehearse and get feedback on their presentation before they're actually in front of the class. How do you do that in the real world, in your classrooms?
I've learned to limit the time that they have to rehearse. I used to not do that, and then I realized that they'll rehearse for a week and a half. So now, generally, depending on the task, it's usually 1 or 2 class periods, and then they get more right to the point, more on-task behavior. I'm not watching what they're doing. I'm not disciplining as much. They stay right on task, and I also refer to the rubrics that I give, and time spent in class, on task, rehearsing, and to have a better performance in the end.
And the rubric really helps. And this is with many teachers in other subjects, the rubrics, a lot of teachers shared with me that the rubrics helps when you give it to the student at the beginning of the unit, and they get to look at it and know what are the expectations. They know that if they were on task, they are going to get credit for it.